The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display activated. A massive ship appeared, unlike anything the 27 species had ever seen before. Counselor Tay's eyes widened as she studied the readings. "This can't be accurate," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the silent chamber. Admiral Kim stood beside her, his usual calm demeanor replaced with visible shock. "The readings are correct, Counselor. The human vessel, Northumbria, measures 157 kilometers in length. Our scans detect approximately 2 million life forms aboard." The chamber erupted with voices. Representatives from across the galaxy spoke over each other in a mixture of concern, disbelief, and fear. Some demanded immediate military response. Others called for caution. Counselor Tai raised her hand, and the room gradually quieted. "We will proceed with standard first contact protocols," she announced. "Until proven otherwise, we assume peaceful intentions." Admiral Kim nodded but couldn't hide his concern. In private briefings, military experts had long established that ships larger than 5 kilometers were inefficient and unnecessary. Most advanced civilizations built small, fast vessels. The idea of a ship 30 times that size defied conventional wisdom. "Establishing communication link now," announced the communications officer. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human woman in a blue uniform. She had short black hair and a calm, confident expression. "I am Captain J of the Earth vessel Northumbria. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations with your council." Her voice was steady, her manner professional. Nothing about her suggested she commanded a vessel of unprecedented size. Counselor Ta stepped forward. "I am Counselor Ta of the Galactic Council. We welcome you to our space and look forward to peaceful exchange. May I ask about your vessel?" "Our readings indicate unusual dimensions." Captain J smiled. "The Northumbria is 157 kilometers in length, yes. It's one of our medium-class generation ships. We currently have 17 others of similar size exploring different sectors of space." The chamber fell silent again. Even Counselor Tai needed a moment to process this information. Not only was this ship massive beyond reason, but it was merely one of many. "Medium class." Admiral Kim couldn't help interrupting. "You have larger vessels." "Of course," Captain J replied as if this were perfectly normal. "The Northumbria class serves primarily as exploratory and diplomatic vessels. Our larger ships serve different functions." After this initial exchange, the Council agreed to send a delegation to the Northumbria. Admiral Kim insisted on leading it personally. He needed to see this vessel with his own eyes. As their shuttle approached the human ship, the true scale became apparent. The Northumbria wasn't just a vessel. It was a moving city in space. Its hull featured vast transparent sections revealing green spaces, water features, and infrastructure. "It looks like they've brought an entire world with them," whispered one of the junior officers. Admiral Kim didn't respond. He was mentally calculating the resources needed to build such a structure. The energy requirements alone would drain most civilizations. The shuttle docked in a bay large enough to hold a small fleet. They were greeted by Captain J and her officers. After formal introductions, they were taken on a preliminary tour. "This is just one of 12 major docking facilities," explained Captain J as they walked. "We can accommodate up to 300 visiting vessels simultaneously." Later, in a private meeting room, Admiral Kim reviewed the preliminary scans with Captain J and Counselor Ta. What he saw defied explanation. "You've built redundant systems for your redundant systems," he noted, pointing to the engineering schematics. "And these energy readings suggest you're using less than 40% of your production capacity." Captain J nodded. "Safety and sustainability are our primary concerns for long-duration missions. The Northumbria is designed to function indefinitely without external support." "But why build at this scale?" Counselor Tai asked. "The resources required must be enormous." Captain Ja looked out the viewport at the stars. "Humans learned long ago that our survival depends on thinking beyond immediate needs. We build not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. As they prepared to return to Council headquarters, Admiral Kim pulled Counselor Tai aside. What kind of civilization builds with such excess? Ta wondered aloud. Admiral Kim watched the human captain speaking with her officers across the room. One that plans to be around for a very long time, he replied quietly. The delegation departed with more questions than answers. As their shuttle pulled away, they could see the true scope of the Northumbria. A moving world carrying human civilization into the stars, built not from necessity, but from vision. The galaxy would never be the same. Chief Engineer Jun followed his human guide through the massive corridor that led to the Northumbria's main engine room. As the doors slid open, Jun stopped in his tracks. The engine room stretched before him, larger than the entire engineering section of the Council's flagship. Banks of equipment hummed with power, and hundreds of human engineers moved about their tasks with practiced efficiency. This is... Jun struggled to find words. Engineer Hyun smiled at the alien's reaction. Impressive, right? This is just the central control hub. The actual drive systems extend for 7 kilometers in each direction. Jun approached the main control panel, studying the displays. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he processed the information. You have 5 separate propulsion systems, he asked incredulously. Why would any ship need so many? 6 actually, Hyun corrected. The 6th is still experimental, so we don't count it in official specifications. Jun's mouth opened, but no words came out. 6 different ways to move through space. The most advanced Council ships had 2 systems, a main drive and an emergency backup. But the inefficiency, Jun finally managed. Inefficiency doesn't concern us as much as reliability, Hyun explained. We can cross the galaxy using just 1 system if needed. With all 6, we can reach speeds that would surprise you. The tour continued through a massive door into what appeared to be farmland. Jun stared at rows of crops extending farther than he could see. Artificial sunlight streamed from the ceiling, and irrigation systems moved slowly between the plants. Our hydroponics bays produce 80% of our food, Hyun explained. The rest comes from protein cultivation and specialized gardens throughout the ship. Jun nodded weakly. His own species' longest duration vessels carried food supplies for 5 years at most. How many people live aboard? He asked. Just over 2 million currently, Hyun replied. Though we can accommodate up to 3 million comfortably. They took a transport pod through the ship's interior. When the doors opened again, Jun found himself staring at a landscape that shouldn't exist inside a spacecraft. A vast dome stretched overhead, containing a lake surrounded by buildings, parks, and streets. This section houses 300,000 people, Hyun explained as they walked along a path beside the water. We call it Lakeside District. Your ship contains districts. Jun was struggling to maintain his professional composure. Of course, people need community. The Northumbria has 12 major districts, each with their own governance within our ship's constitution. Jun stopped walking. Your ship has a constitution. Naturally. Democratic principles don't stop just because we're in space, Hyun said. Each district elects representatives to the ship's council. The captain has final authority in emergencies, but day-to-day decisions are made collectively. They continued through manufacturing sectors where raw materials entered one end and finished products emerged from the other. Jun watched as a complex piece of machinery took shape before his eyes. You build everything aboard? He asked. Almost everything, Hyun confirmed. Self-sufficiency is key to long-term space travel. We mine asteroids for raw materials and process them here. When they returned to the council station where diplomats from both sides were meeting, alarms were blaring. Engineers rushed past them toward the life support section. What's happening? Hyun asked a passing technician. Atmospheric processors failing. The technician replied hurriedly. 3 main units down. Backups not responding. Jun felt his heart sink. The station's life support was critical. Without it, The entire diplomatic mission would have to be evacuated. How long until complete failure? He asked. 6 hours at most, the technician answered before rushing away. Jun turned to Hyun. We'll need to request emergency parts from the nearest council outpost, but that's 3 days away at best. To Jun's surprise, Hyun pulled out a communication device. After a brief conversation, he turned back to Jun with a calm expression. We have 17 spare atmospheric regulation units in storage, Hyun said casually. We can have them installed within hours. 17 spares. Jun could barely comprehend the level of redundancy. Of course, Hyun replied. Wouldn't want anyone to suffocate over something so simple. Within 4 hours, human engineers had replaced all the failed atmospheric processors. The council technicians watched in amazement as the humans efficiently installed equipment that was actually superior to the original systems. Later, as they shared a meal in the station's dining area, Jun finally asked the question bothering him. How can you afford such excess? The resources required must be enormous. Hyun considered the question carefully before answering. We don't see it as excess. We see it as necessary. Humans learn through painful experience that in space, the difference between life and death often comes down to having one more backup system than you thought you'd need. Jun nodded slowly, beginning to understand the human perspective. As he looked out the viewport at the massive Northumbria floating nearby, he wondered if perhaps his people had been thinking too small all along. Linguist Park stood before the gathered alien scholars in the Northumbria's Cultural Exchange Center. The room was filled with representatives from 12 different species, each with their own translator devices. 3 months had passed since first contact, and the initial shock had given way to deep curiosity. The concept simply doesn't translate, Park explained, gesturing to the holographic image of the ship floating above the table. Humans don't just build ships to travel between destinations. They build them to live in permanently. Researcher Sun, a tall being with blue-tinted skin and gill-like structures on her neck, raised her hand. She represented the Aquatic Nebula Collective, one of the oldest civilizations in the Council. But surely they maintain some connection to their homeworld, she asked, her translator device converting her fluid language to standard speech. All species have an ancestral attachment to their origin planet. Park smiled and shook his head. Many humans aboard the Northumbria have never seen Earth. Their great-grandparents were born here. Their home is the ship itself. Their connection is to their community, their district, their traditions. This statement caused a stir among the alien scholars. The idea of voluntarily severing planetary ties was foreign to most council species, who maintained cultural and often physical connections to their homeworlds. Do humans not feel the pull of gravity? Asked a small, furry representative from the Hilmer Republic. Our scientists believe that biological development requires planetary conditions. We create our own gravity, Park explained, and our own weather, seasons, day and night cycles. The Northumbria isn't just a vessel. It's a complete habitat designed to fulfill all human needs. Across the ship, in a secure meeting room, Captain J sat across from Council Security Director Du. The tall, lean alien skin had a metallic sheen, and his 4 eyes seemed to miss nothing. Of all the Council representatives, Du had been the most openly suspicious of human intentions. Your vessel could destroy a small moon, Du stated flatly, reviewing the technical specifications on his datapad. We cannot ignore this military potential. Captain J sighed. They had covered this ground before, but Du's concerns persisted. Director Du, J replied patiently, setting down her cup of tea. If we wanted to build weapons, we wouldn't disguise them as family housing and community parks. The energy systems you're concerned about exist to sustain life, not to take it. Yet you could repurpose them, Du insisted. We could, Jay acknowledged. And your diplomatic vessels could be loaded with explosives. Trust requires accepting possibilities without assuming intentions. Du's upper eyes narrowed, but he didn't respond immediately. Instead, he requested a tour of the ship's power distribution network. Jay agreed, knowing transparency was their best approach. As the days passed, cultural exchange programs flourished throughout the Northumbria. Alien visitors were invited to observe daily life, participate in human traditions, and share their own customs. Some council representatives expressed interest in human art forms, especially music and dance, which seemed to transcend species barriers. Oddly, it was Director Du who became most immersed in human culture. He attended community gatherings, observed governance meetings, and spent hours in the ship's vast libraries. When not performing official duties, he could often be found in the lakeside district, watching children play near the water. One evening, 3 weeks after their initial tense meeting, Captain J found Du sitting alone in the diplomatic dining room long after others had left. She sat down across from him with a fresh cup of tea. "You seem troubled, Director," she observed. Du looked up from his datapad. "I am reevaluating my assumptions," he admitted. "About humans, about what drives a species to build as you do," he clarified. "My people value efficiency above all else. Our vessels contain only what is necessary. No excess, no waste." Jay nodded, waiting for him to continue. "Why build so large?" Du finally asked, setting aside his professional skepticism to reveal genuine curiosity. "The energy requirements alone." "Because humans need space to be human," Jay answered simply. "We discovered long ago that confined spaces lead to confined thinking. Our ships reflect who we are." Du considered this. "Your people choose to live in these vessels across generations. You create worlds within them." "Yes," Jay confirmed. "Each generation adapts the ship to their needs, adding their own contributions to our journey." "My people would consider this inefficient," Du said softly. "Perhaps efficiency isn't the only value worth pursuing," Jay suggested. "Perhaps there's value in creating spaces where people can grow, change, and dream." The next day, Du did something unprecedented. He requested permission to bring a delegation of young council representatives to live aboard the Northumbria for a full cycle. When asked why by his superiors, his answer was unexpected. "Because we need to understand not just how humans build ships," he explained, "but how their ships build them." As the exchange program expanded, the first signs of cultural influence began to appear on council vessels. Small gardens appeared on military ships. Community spaces were added to research stations. The human way of building for life, not just survival, was spreading through the stars. The emergency beacon from Research Outpost Delta flashed across all communication channels throughout council space. In the main council chamber, representatives gathered quickly, their faces showing fear and concern. The spatial anomaly that scientists had been studying for years had suddenly become active, expanding at an alarming rate. "The anomaly has grown by 300% in the past 12 hours, reported the chief scientist, her voice trembling. "Our models predict it will engulf 3 nearby star systems within 3 days." Councillor Taz stood at the center of the chamber, reviewing evacuation plans on her datapad. The numbers didn't add up. "The evacuation vessels can't handle this many people," she informed the emergency session, her voice grave. "Even if we deploy every available ship in the sector, we're looking at potential casualties in the millions." The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Some representatives argued for priority evacuation of their own species. Others suggested military options to somehow contain the anomaly. None of the proposals seemed workable. Then a new voice cut through the chaos. Captain J of the Northumbria appeared on the main communication screen, her expression calm but determined. "The Northumbria can accommodate all evacuees from the threatened systems," she stated firmly. "We're already en route and can reach the first system in 16 hours. Silence fell across the chamber as the representatives processed this offer. "All evacuees?" Councillor Tai asked skeptically. "We're talking about over 1 million beings from 3 different planets, each with different atmospheric needs. The Northumbria was designed for multi-species habitation," Captain J explained. "We have 3 complete districts that can be reconfigured for different atmospheric requirements within hours. Our life support systems can handle the additional population. Within a day, the massive human vessel had positioned itself near the first threatened world. The evacuation began immediately. Council ships ferried people from the planet's surface to the Northumbria, where human crews guided them to designated areas. Director Du observed the operation from the ship's command center. He had insisted on coordinating the Council's evacuation efforts personally. What he witnessed changed his understanding of humanity forever. The Northumbria's interior transformed before his eyes. Residential sections expanded as walls were reconfigured. Public spaces became processing centers. Storage areas opened to reveal thousands of emergency habitation units. "You prepared for this exact scenario," Director Du said to Captain J as they monitored the operation. Captain J nodded. "Not this specific event, but yes, we prepare for mass evacuation scenarios. Every human generation ship is designed with emergency population capacity built in." "But why?" Du asked. "The statistical likelihood of needing to rescue millions of beings is extremely low." "Yet here we are," Jay replied simply. By the second day, over 600,000 refugees had boarded the Northumbria. The ship's systems handled the increased load smoothly. Human medical teams worked alongside council doctors to treat the injured and ill. Children from 3 different species played together in designated recreation areas, while their parents registered with ship authorities. Engineer Jun joined the technical team, helping to integrate council communication systems with the ship's network. He worked alongside Engineer Hyun, still amazed by the ship's capabilities. "Your power systems haven't even reached 70% capacity," Jun noted as he reviewed the ship's status. "We build with margin for a reason," Hyun replied. On the third day, disaster struck. The anomaly suddenly accelerated its expansion, surging toward the evacuation zone, where 3 smaller council vessels were still loading refugees. "They won't clear the danger zone in time," reported a sensor officer. Without hesitation, Captain J gave the order. "Position the Northumbria between the anomaly and the council ships. Deploy maximum shields." The massive human vessel moved with surprising speed, placing itself directly in the path of the expanding anomaly. Then, energy shields unlike anything the council species had ever seen burst to life around the ship, extending outward to encompass the 3 smaller vessels as well. In the engineering section, Jun stared at the power readings in disbelief. "How are you generating this much power?" he asked in awe as he monitored the shield's strength. "These levels should be impossible to sustain." Engineer Hyun smiled as her fingers flew across the control panel, making adjustments. "Remember those redundant systems you thought were wasteful? This is why they exist." The anomaly's energy washed over the shields, creating spectacular patterns of light. The Northumbria shuddered but held firm. Inside, refugees barely felt the impact. When the danger passed, the council ships resumed their evacuation duties. By week's end, all 1.2 million inhabitants from the threatened systems had been safely relocated, over 1 million aboard the Northumbria itself. In a quiet moment after the crisis, Director Du found Captain J on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Your ship was designed for this," he realized aloud. "Not just exploration or habitation, but salvation." "Of course," Jay confirmed with a small smile. "The Northumbria and all our generation ships serve as arcs, preserving not just human life but human civilization. We build to survive anything the universe might throw at us." Du was silent for a moment, thinking of his own people's efficient but limited vessels. "We've been thinking too small," he finally said. "No," Jay corrected him gently. "You've been thinking differently. Perhaps now we can think together." 1 year after the human ship Northumbria first entered council space, everything had changed. Today was the day humanity would officially join the Galactic Council. The ceremony took place in the central park of the Northumbria. It wasn't a small meeting room or hall, but a massive 10-kilometer biodome filled with earth forests, lakes, and wildlife. Birds flew freely overhead. Small animals moved through the underbrush. A gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers and fresh water. Representatives from all 27 council species gathered around a large clearing. Many had never set foot on the human vessel before and looked around in wonder. Some dipped their appendages in the lake water. Others studied the trees with scientific interest. Councillor Ta stood on a simple wooden platform. Her formal council robes shimmered in the artificial sunlight. Captain J stood beside her, wearing the blue uniform of the human exploration fleet. They had become friends over the past year, working together through diplomatic challenges. Today marks not just an alliance, but a new understanding, Councillor Ta announced to the assembled dignitaries. Her voice carried across the clearing. Humanity has shown us a different path forward. She spoke of the rescue mission that had saved over 1 million lives when the spatial anomaly threatened 3 systems. She mentioned the technological exchanges that had benefited all species, but mostly she spoke of a new philosophy that was spreading through council space. "We have learned that efficiency is not always the highest value," she said. "Sometimes redundancy means survival. Sometimes space to grow means thriving." After the speeches, Engineer Jun led Director Du and several other officials on a tour of new developments across council space. They viewed holographic displays of shipyards where new vessel designs were taking shape. "This is the Harmony," Jun explained, showing them a ship unlike any built before. The first true collaborative vessel between humans and council species. The Harmony combined the best of both approaches. It had the efficient drive systems the council favored, but also the redundant backup systems humans insisted upon. It featured both the practical work spaces alien engineers preferred and the community areas humans couldn't live without. "Construction will be complete within 6 months," Jun announced proudly. 20 more are planned after this prototype proves successful. Back at the ceremony, guests enjoyed food and drink from all represented worlds. Music from different cultures played as diplomats and crew members mingled freely. The mood was celebratory. Suddenly, a communication alert sounded. The main display at the front of the gathering activated automatically. Everyone turned to look. The screen showed space near the Northumbria. A massive object was emerging from superluminal travel, its form gradually becoming clear as energy dissipated around it. "Right on schedule," Captain J remarked calmly. "May I present the Britannia, flagship of the human exploration fleet." The gathered aliens gasped collectively as the measurements appeared on screen. The Britannia made the Northumbria look small in comparison. It stretched nearly 300 kilometers in length, almost twice the size of the vessel that had initially shocked the council. "How many people live aboard?" asked a reptilian diplomat, their scales changing color in surprise. 5 million, Captain J answered. "It's our first city ship, designed for deep space exploration beyond the galaxy's edge." Later, when the formal events had concluded, Director Du found Captain J on an observation deck. Through the massive window, they could see both human vessels floating against the backdrop of stars. The Northumbria, once considered impossibly large, now seemed almost modest next to the Britannia. "Will they ever stop getting bigger?" Director Du asked, his tone mixing awe with concern. "Probably not," Jay replied with a smile. "It's in our nature to expand, to build, to prepare. We carry our homes with us into the stars." Du nodded slowly. Their relationship had changed dramatically over the past year. Initial suspicion had given way to respect, and eventually to friendship. "I'm beginning to understand," he said thoughtfully. "Your ships aren't just vessels. They're your statement to the universe that humanity intends to endure." "Exactly," Jay agreed. "And now we build together." Below them, visible through another viewport, teams of human and alien engineers gathered around large design tables. Holograms displayed vessels unlike anything seen before. Some had features clearly inspired by council technology. Others showed human influence, but the most interesting designs combined elements from many worlds. "The Britannia won't be the largest for long," Jay said, pointing to one particular design floating above a central table. "What is that?" Du asked, leaning forward to see better. "The future," Jay replied simply. a vessel designed to carry multiple species on multi-generational journeys. We're calling it Unity. As night fell across the simulated Earth landscape of the Northumbria's Central Park, lights came on in the distant Britannia. The massive vessel glowed like a new star against the darkness of space, a testament to what was possible when imagination overcame limitation. Together, human innovation and alien wisdom would carry their civilizations forward into the unknown. The galaxy would never be the same. Retroclaude can make mistakes,